Hi guys, the Metal Maniac back again, and in this video I'm going to be doing a review of the album Lightning to the Nations by Diamond Head. This is their first album and it was released in 1980. So before I get into the songs, I'm going to name off the band members really quick. Brian Taylor on guitar, Sheen Harris on vocals, Cullen Kimberly on bass, and Duncan Scott on drums. I'm trying to set this thing down for a second. Alright, so the album starts off with the title track, Lightning to the Nations, and honestly, I don't understand why this was the opening track, considering that Lightning to the Nations is very boring. It's a very boring and forgettable song. I don't understand why, one, they even thought to make this the title track, and two, I don't understand why they thought this would be a good opener for the album. But yeah, the album doesn't start off too well. Honestly, I think they should have, had the title track be something else, like, another song, which I'll get into once I get to that one. Anyway, so the next song is called The Prince, which is way better, and yeah, this is where to me the album really truly starts being like really good. Yeah, The Prince is an amazing song. It's a very fast-paced, energetic type song with a really cool riff. Especially from the midpoint to the end of the song, it has this really cool, very melodic, but also very fast driven riff to it that just it sounds really cool. And I love there's two different styles of riffs going on in this song. You have the first portion of the song, which has a very sort of I don't know, it's a very, I don't want to say bluesy type riff, but it kind of sounds like it has some blues influence, but it's a very different riff from the later riff in the song later on. But it's really cool because first you get this, again, slightly different riff in the beginning to the mid portion, which goes into this really cool guitar solo. Then after the guitar solo, it goes into more melodic type riff. And then later on, it goes back to the riff from the first half of the song, and then goes back to the riff near the end. At the end of the song, it goes back to the riff from the second half of the song, which is really, really cool because this song, like, sure, vocally the song's good. Sheen Harris does a good job, drawing-wise, but bass-wise, whatever. But the guitar work on this song in particular is the highlight of the song, in my opinion. It's just a very good, it has a couple different, it's two different riffs, and it's very cool because they go back and forth between the two different riffs, and also with the solo, the guitar solo in the middle of that. But like the way they transition from riff to riff back and forth very seamlessly, and it just flows very well, and it's just very well put together. But yeah, The Prince is just an amazing song. The next song is called Sucking My Love. Now, this song is a little too long. It's like 9 minutes. Now, I think the majority of the song is really good, but I think the first couple of minutes should have been cut off. Not that the first couple of minutes are bad, but I think, the song is good, but if I had any gripe with it, I just think it goes on for a little bit too long. I don't think the song, like, the way it is, it doesn't feel like it was meant to be as long as it is, if that makes any sense. It feels like they just extended it just to extend the run length of the album. But yeah, other than that minor complaint, it's still a really good song. It has a, really cool riff. I also love the slowdown part. So it's very sort of energetic, and then it goes to this very cool slowed down part, very melodic, sort of like a ballad section of the song, I guess. So before, majority of the song, it's, faster paced, and it has a really cool wild guitar solo in there. But then it hits this really cool sort of ballady type midsection of the song. It slows down, it's more melodic, and it's this really cool sort of melodic, sort of semi-solo, sort of semi-riff that goes into a more melodic solo. And then it speeds back up again later on, and it has another really cool solo too. So technically there's like 3 solos in the song. Now usually that would be too much for a song, and I don't usually like that. But it just the way the song is structured and the way the different parts of the song are, they sort of implement these 3 different solos very, very well. And it's not like they're 3 of the same style of solos. They're 3 completely different style of solos. Like you have the first one, which is more of the fast-paced, energetic, just out there solo. You have the second one, which is a bit more moody, a bit more melodic, slowed down, and just has more of a very sort of dramatic, not dramatic. It has a more it's sort of a more of an emotional driven solo. And then you have the third one, which is kind of a combination of the first 2. But yeah, it's just a really amazing song. Another very cool structurally sounding song. It's put together very well. And then the next song is my favorite song on the album, Am I Evil? This is probably their most famous and iconic song, and yeah, I totally get why. This song it probably has one of my favorite guitar riffs of all time, along with the guitar solo as well. It actually starts off with this really cool epic drum intro that feels like almost like sort of like a preparing for like war type feel to it. I guess this very epic, almost battle ready kind of feel and sound to it. And then, after it builds up and builds up and builds up, there's this really cool, almost mini guitar solo. It's a really cool, very fast-paced, almost technical mini solo, which leads into the main riff. That's very slow, but very almost doomy and just very sort of heavy and sinister sounding. This is probably the most heavy and sinister sounding riffs of 1980. And it's just a very cool, iconic riff, and it fits very well with the tone of the song. And yeah, the vocal, probably, what's his name again? I completely forgot. Sean Harris? Yeah, Sean Harris's best vocal performance out of any Diamond Head song. He just brings this really sort of spunk and attitude to this song. Like, you really feel the menace behind his vocals, even though they're not very harsh vocals, pretty much not at all. But just the way he delivers the vocal lines in this just has a very sort of like attitude to it, and has a very sort of like almost sinister nature behind the vocals. It's just a very cool way he did the vocals on this song. And it has this really cool sort of like mid riff where near the mid portion of the song you have the main riff, the more heavy, doomy, evil sounding riff that sort of like goes back and forth a couple of times, like 3 or 4 times, very quickly between that and then sort of more melodic, a lighter riff, and it goes back and forth, and then eventually it goes into the solo, which is amazing. It starts off, pretty much something you've heard on the last couple of songs, but then it goes in this really cool extended, technical bit that extends, and then it goes into more, sort of a, classic Diamond Head guitar solo after that. It's just a very well-structured solo, and just very layered as well. It's a very layered, well-structured guitar solo that just sounds amazing. And of course, after that it goes back to the main riff, and, the song ends. But yeah, Am I Evil is an amazing song. Probably, I'd say it's my personal favorite Diamond Head song, and I'd say it's probably if not their best songs they've ever done. But yeah. And a great way to start off the second side of the album, too. Also, something I forgot to mention that I was going to mention, almost forgot to mention, Am I Evil? Not only should have been the opening track of the album, but also should have been the title track. Like, this feels like it could have been an amazing opening track slash title track. So again, I don't know why they chose Lightning to the Nations when that song is just very boring and forgettable. But anyway, the next song is called Sweet and Innocent. This one's okay. I don't mind it. I don't think it's forgettable like the title track, but it's not. It's definitely one of the lesser songs on the album. Again, it's still enjoyable, but it just, I mean, it's only like 3 minutes long, and it just goes by a little bit too fast. You don't really get to register, the song very well, because again, it's a pretty quick song, and it's over pretty, fast. And, I mean, it's a decent song. I don't mind it, but it's definitely not one of the better songs on the album, but also not the worst. The next song is called It's Electric. This one is awesome. Yeah, sure, it's all around only 3 minutes, like the, Sweet and Innocent, but it's just done way better. It has a very higher energy riff, very great guitar solo, and unlike like most of the other songs where they do sound like traditional, heavy metal, very early traditional heavy metal, by the way, but this one is more of a classic, mid to late 80s, 70s hard rock sound and style to it. But yeah, I mean, and I like the difference. I know, again, most of the other songs pretty have like sort of like a, I guess a continuity to how they sound in the, just in terms of, early heavy metal. But I like how this one's a little bit different, where It's Electric is pretty much, again, like I said, it sounds very much like just a classic 70s hard rock sound to it. Yeah, it's just a very cool song. And then the album ends with Helpless. Honestly, even though Sweet and Innocent, is sort of a, okay song, Helpless is a very weak track and a very weird way to end it. I mean, again, it's not terrible, but it is very weird that it's placed here. Honestly, the album should have ended with It's Electric. It would have been a better fitting closing track. But yeah, Helpless is just kind of forgettable. Now, the album, this version does have bonus tracks, but they're very forgettable, honestly. I mean, they start off kind of decently with the song Shoot Out the Lights, which is, again, a decent song, but not very memorable. Aside from maybe like the riff in it, I guess. Streets of Gold, again, very forgettable. Waited Too Long, again, forgettable. Play It Loud, forgettable. Diamond Lights is probably the most lame sound. I don't know how to describe it. Diamond Lights is probably the worst song they've ever done in their early days. Now, I'm not saying it's a terrible song, technically speaking, but it's probably the single most, out of all the forgettable songs they've done, Diamond Lights is probably the single most forgettable one. And I Don't Got, which is not proper grammar. They should just called it I Don't Got It. Now, I understand it's out of context, but like the lyrics, it makes sense in terms of when you're hearing the lyrics and, what they're, the lyrics and stuff. But just out of context, it just being the title called I Don't Got, kind of just makes it a weird sort of broken grammar kind of sound to the name of the song. Yeah. I mean, anyway. So, before I get into my final thoughts on the verdict, I do have quite a few other things to say about, the artwork, packaging, and stuff like that. As for the artwork itself, there's literally nothing here. It's just a blank white, thing with the, band members' autographs. Now, there is for a reason. So, despite what most people know in terms of the artwork for this album, because most people are familiar with the two different CD versions. The original CD version, which it had probably the best album artwork this album ever had. It was like it was the band logo in purple lettering, a really cool sort of font in purple lettering, and then like a blue diamond, and then a black background. That's probably the most iconic version of the artwork for this album, and that's the artwork most people know. And then there was like I think an unofficial re-release on CD, which I believe had a another variation of that artwork, but slightly different and slightly more or less like comic book slash cartoonish and a bit more realistic looking in the detail. Um, and then I believe there was a other vinyl version that had sort of a very odd artwork. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember it was very odd looking. But for the reason for the lack of artwork on here, this re-release is supposed to sort of represent the original release of this album on vinyl, which because of budget constraints, they didn't have enough money, I guess, to pay for someone to do artwork for the album, so they just left it a blank white cover and just, wrote their signatures on it. Yeah, sure, some people may complain, there's no artwork, it's kind of boring looking, but I think it's kind of unique. And I also like how they didn't just leave it completely plain. I like how they added their signatures to it. As for the back of the album, you have the track listing, and of course the picture of the band members. The inside of it is a double gatefold, and then inside of it is just your standard standard sort of thing with the just the song lyrics and the band member credits. As for the vinyl, there's two vinyl on here. There's the vinyl. The first one is the main album. The other one is the bonus tracks. And both vinyls are colored vinyls, and they're exactly the same. So I'm going to show one of them because they're pretty much the same. And both vinyls are on this really cool sort of like semi-translucent light blue. And it looks really cool. Also, if you hold it up to the light, it looks even cooler. Like, it's more of a white color. You hold it back, you hold it away from the light, it's a little bit more blue. Yeah, really cool looking. Oh, sorry. I almost put it in, I almost put it back the opposite way. I almost put it on back side B on top instead of side A. Anyway. Alright. And it does come with two extra things. Hold on, I gotta put this in the sleeve really quickly. Sorry, these thicker cases are sometimes harder to get back in the plastic sleeves. Anyway, so the first thing, the bonus content that comes with it, is this sort of a recreation of a backstage pass from their 1981 tour. It looks really cool. I don't have a lanyard to put it on, but I don't think I'm gonna actually put it on a lanyard. I'm probably just gonna keep it with the actual album, because I have no use to put this on anything or whatever. And then the other thing that this album comes with is this cool booklet. It's sort of a very brief summary of the early history of this band and then the making of the album. Of course, I really love the cover, how it's sort of a screenshot of their first ever filmed live show back in 1979. I don't know if it's their first ever live show ever, but I do know I don't know for sure if that's the case, although I do know it is their first ever filmed live show. So maybe they had a few before, or maybe this is the very first time they ever played live. I don't know, but that's the screenshot from that video. And of course you have the old classic Diamond Head logo, where you have the actual diamond there. And on the inside, of course, you get pictures of the band members. Again, more information about the early history of the band and the making of the album. And then you get pictures of some of the products they had out at the time. Mainly most of the singles. You have the right there. You have the couple singles up there, and then you have pictures of their first EP, Diamond Lights, which is kind of boring, really. I actually like their second EP they did. I can't remember. Oh, it was called Four Cuts, which is self-explanatory. It was an EP with 4 songs. Anyway, and then you have more singles over here. And again, more information as... Oh, here it is. So this is, I believe, the original European version of this album. And as you can see, it does have artwork, but it's just very bland. It's sort of a very messy... you can't really tell what it's supposed to be at first because the painting is extremely messy on it. But it's supposed to be a globe of the world on fire. But again, because the artwork, just whoever painted it just did not do a good job. I don't know if they just didn't know how to paint right or whatever. But you can't really tell at first what it's supposed to be because it's just the picture, the painting is just very messy. Yeah, that's the original European version. And then actually, hold on, I forgot. There's one more page I forgot about, and that's the another screenshot of them playing live. So overall, my overall thoughts on this album. Really, it's their only truly good full-length album. Yeah, Diamond Head, later became they were early on, back in the day, they started out as sort of a traditional new wave of British heavy metal band, but eventually sort of changed their sound to progressive rock. And when they changed their sound, it just wasn't the same band anymore. It was just kind of blah. And even the early stuff, most of the early stuff besides this album is kind of forgettable, except the Four Cuts EP, which I really want to get at some point. That EP is really good. But yeah, as for this album, I do really think this is the absolute standout of their career. And I really like, it's not the most well-recorded album of 1980. I think it's one of the, I don't think it's one of the worst. But I love the rawness. And yeah, sure, the main reason why it's so raw sounding is because, again, they had a very tight budget. Hell, they couldn't even afford artwork on their album. That's how low of a budget this album was. But, even then, the raw audio really sort of gives it its charm. And it sort of, is a sort of unique sound as well. It's raw, but it's not raw to the point where you can't really hear anything that well. So it's sort of a good in-between, I guess. As for the songs, like I said, I don't know why they even, decided to put bonus tracks on here, because the bonus tracks are kind of forgettable. And like I said, the opening track / title track is pretty forgettable, and then, Helpless is forgettable as a closing track. But honestly, everything else on here is really good. Like I said, The Prince, Sucking My Love, Am I Evil, and Electric, and even to an extent, Sweet and Innocent. Honestly, I'm gonna probably give this a 7.8 out of 10. It's sort of a mixed bag, but one of the better mixed bag albums. But yeah, it's a 7 out of 10. Alright, so that's about it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.